Fourth Contact, Saturday, February 15, 1975, 1:48 am. Semjase says, in the last few days, I have received many powerful thoughts from you. You occupy yourself enormously with the most diverse things, but for your own security I am not allowed to answer all of your questions. Billy says, didn't you tell me that you would not penetrate my thoughts, except for some urgent need? Semjase says, certainly. I did not delve into your thoughts, but you have directed yours so intensely towards me that I simply had to receive them. You have a phenomenal thinking power, which only very few people already possess. Billy says, I had not thought of this, and I didn't want to bother you. Semjase says, no problem at all, because in this way I could occupy myself with your questions, which I am not allowed to answer as detailed as I would like. I and all of the others trust you fully, but there do exist some people on Earth who possess various means of power and could coerce every secret from you. I know very well that you would fight against this, but they might coerce some things from you nevertheless. Therefore, we must take great care and precaution in every way. But now do ask your questions at your discretion, because I simply cannot, nor do I want to, dictatorially respond, thereby making your line of questions my own. Billy says, thank you, Semjase. You speak perfect German. Where did you learn to master this language? Semjase says, a good question that is easy to answer. Just like human beings on Earth, we also have to learn a language. Yet this is much easier for us and presents less trouble. We possess all Earth languages that were ever spoken in ancient times or are currently used. That is to say, we have detailed recordings of them in the most diverse formats. Language training courses, as you would call them, were compiled from them. This work is performed by language scientists of machines similar to what you call computers. Further, machines of a similar type serve to transmit the desired language and instill it in us. This means we are connected to such a machine or apparatus, which then transmits the desired language. This occurs during a machine-induced, hypnotic-like state. In this way, the definitions and meanings of the language become implanted and registered. This process takes 21 days. Then we require another 9-10 days in order to also speak the language correctly. This means that we must practice its correct application and pronunciation with the help of machines and the language scientists. In this manner it takes us about 30 to 31 days to learn a language. People on Earth are already operating in a similar fashion by using tape recorders in their language courses, particularly at so-called language institutes. This is already the first step toward constructing and using apparatuses and machines such as ours. In various parts of the world, work is being done on such computers. Billy says, that's about how I envisioned it. Semjase says, I know. Billy says, my next question refers to what you have already explained during our first meeting. People on Earth will never be capable of traveling into the true, deep outer space unless they invent another method of propulsion. I can only imagine what you mean with the term propulsion, for example, that it must involve a form of beam drive, or hyperdrive, so to speak. In my opinion, it would need to consist of a drive that alters matter in some way, probably while the speed of light is exceeded. In the process, the beam ship is hurled into hyperspace, in which space and time are paralyzed, as you have already explained. I assume that space and time collapse in a manner whereby they are somehow completely nullified. Semjase says, you would make a great scientist. This is really phenomenal considering that all of your knowledge is based on autodidactic work. You are completely correct in your assumptions. To travel through real outer space, one needs a drive that surpasses the speed of light many times over. This propulsion can only become activated, however, when the speed of light has already been reached. As a result, another drive is needed to regulate the normal speed up to that of light. This means then that a beam ship needs two propulsion systems first, a normal drive which permits acceleration up to and below the speed of light and, Second, a hyperdrive as you call it. A drive, therefore, which generates a velocity 1,000,000 and billion times that of light, the hyperspeed, which enables us to enter hyperspace. A space in which every mass expands in proportion to the increase in speed. Consequently, time and space collapse and they become null time and null space. That is to say, space and time simply cease to exist. And exactly by this manner is created the fact that distances of countless light years can be traversed in a fraction of a second without causing a shift in time. Billy says, does this mean then that the same amount of time passes for a beam ship and its passengers as it would on the home planet or on some other planet or star? Semjase says, surely. For example, when we leave our Pleiades and require about 7 hours to get to Earth, then 7 hours pass on our own planet and on Earth as well. It takes us this long because we must first fly with the normal drive beyond the reach of the planets. Only then, far away in space, can we convert to hyperspeed. A long way from your solar system, we exit hyperspace and convert to normal propulsion as we continue to fly here. We are never allowed to penetrate hyperspace too close to a planet. Billy says, I understand. The penetration into hyperspace would likely draw one or more planets into hyperspace and eject them as deadly projectiles when the beam ship breaks free from hyperspace. Maybe that's how various huge comets turned into storming and dangerous cosmic speedsters through the fault of irresponsible star travelers. Semjase says, you are partially correct actually. Hyperspace may only be penetrated very far in outer space, otherwise planets will be pulled in. Also, concerning the exit from hyperspace, you figured it out entirely correct. It is also a fact that some comets originated in this manner, but only a few. Most of them were guided on their dangerous path by other natural events. In this case you are only partly right when you assume that all comets originated in this manner, as you perhaps suspected. But the fact is, such events are caused by irresponsibility, because it exists throughout outer space, not only on Earth. Irresponsibility is evident also when new highly developed intelligences perform their first ventures into hyperspace too close to other planets. The safety rule is calculable and states that hyperspeed is only to be initiated 153 million kilometers 95,625 miles away from the nearest planet. Billy says, this is very interesting, but I did not suspect that all comets resulted in the manner you mentioned. But how does such a hyperdrive work, and what about the normal drive? Semjase says, I am not at liberty to give you specifics on this, unfortunately. If scientists on Earth obtained more details, they would resolve their propulsion problems in a very short time. This is neither in our nor the cosmic interest, for the Earth human is still not liberated and mature enough to fly into space. But at the given time, which isn't very far off, he will find the solution to his problem himself. I am only permitted to tell you that many of your scientists are already on the right track and are theoretically working at and researching the necessary propulsion systems. I may tell you also that, in some basic form, these propulsion systems are already known in outline form to your scientific community as light emission and tachyon drives. The light emission drive serves as normal propulsion and has the function of propelling the beam ship onto planets or within the vicinity, up to the 153 million kilometer distance, the safe distance, that is. Then the tachyon drive, among others, is activated when greater distances need to be traversed. This is one of the hyperdrives which are capable of conquering hyperspace and space and time. We call both of these propulsion systems by other names, but the meaning is the same. We have a different language than people on Earth, and for this reason I need to explain it to you in terms you can understand. Billy says that stands to reason, but I do not understand how such a drive functions. I am familiar with the basics of emission and I know what tachyons mean, yet I cannot imagine or guess their actual processes that result in propulsion. Can you tell me more about it? Semjase says, no, I am not allowed to do so because it would reveal the secret of the whole propulsion system and the generation and harnessing of tachyons, along with the secret of the emission drive. Billy says thanks, that'll do, as I don't want to pressure you. One thing still interests me, though as I assess and ponder it carefully, the form of the beam ship plays no decisive role, and yet a disc-like ship would be the ideal shape because surely, in the atmosphere, it offers the least aerodynamic resistance, which might also be the case in water. Semjase says certainly. You have hit the nail on the head again. Basically, though, the form really makes no difference. However, the disk shape ensures the least resistance in an atmosphere, and besides, it offers the largest surface and best shape that allows the drives on them or through them to become fully effective. Billy says this seems clear to me, but how is it possible for a beam ship to attain immense speeds within the gravity field of a planet or in its atmosphere without burning up, or having the passengers succumb to the immense pressure? Semjase says this is very easy to explain and no secret any longer to the Earth human, at least not to the scientists. The beam ship is surrounded by a radiation protection shield that causes every little current of air to glide off without pushing against it. The same thing also occurs in outer space, which simply swarms with inconspicuous particles. Thus, this radiation protection shield has the purpose of protecting the beam ship against extraneous influences and resistance, without destroying or pushing against anything that collides with the shield. Anything that penetrates or offers resistance is simply deflected without pushing against it. Pushing against it would mean resistance and would remove the possibility of unlimited speed. Through the deflective quality of the radiation shield, another important effect is triggered which is of great and vital importance to the passengers. The deflection technique of the radiation shield simultaneously neutralizes the gravitational force of a planet. But this does not mean that gravity is simply destroyed, pushed aside or nullified. The air, as well as some rays or particles and magnetism, etc., are simply deflected in the same way. As a result, its own normal gravitational and attraction forces prevail within the beam ship. This means, therefore, that a beam ship bears the exact same gravitational force on board as also prevails on the Earth. Besides, the gravitational pull of a planet is not always equally intense, but it also undergoes a certain change, a fact your scientists will discover in the near future. By gliding off the radiation protection shield, that is, the sliding off of gravity and magnetism, respectively, the beam ship practically becomes a miniature independent planet which can travel without risk through any atmosphere at nearly the speed of light. Due to the fact that the gravity of the planet involved no longer has an influence on the beam ship, the passengers feel as normal and unhampered as if they were on the planet, assuming, of course, that the planet corresponds with their anatomical capacities and is not subject to greater attractive forces, gravitational forces. The attraction force inside the beam ship is adjusted to suit the passengers, of course, and is absolutely controllable. 86. When beam ship passengers from other worlds move about on foreign planets with a hostile atmosphere or hostile gravitational forces, they use spacesuits and small portable devices that generate for the entities the identical radiation protection shields as that on their own beam ship. Billy says this is very detailed and illuminating, but can you give me the technical details for the construction of such a device? Semjase says I am not allowed to do that, unfortunately, but I can assure you that your scientists are already working on the basics of such devices, and the day is not far when they will manufacture them. However, it lies in the framework of evolution that the Earth human must first develop more in consciousness and spiritually before he will solve these secrets and not use them simply to hurt others. But even then, the great danger exists that the barbaric Earth people will use their technical knowledge and capabilities and their technical inventions viciously and greedily to satisfy their lust for power. This has happened before and will happen again, not only with terrestrial humankind but other human beings on other worlds, as well. But when the time comes that man obtains the required technology to fly not only to Earth's moon, but to other planets, he may not